Hello, YouTube. Hello, hello. I have finally compiled my League Start suggestions for this next up-and-coming Outlaw League for the next Torchlight season. We have quite a wide array of interesting characters to choose from, and I think if you're a new player or if you're just trying to confirm whether or not your setup is good or not, this should be a pretty good estimate for you to go off of. So, there's two builds that really stood out to me when going through the patch notes that seem to be absolutely powerful. Of course, the latest hero to be released to the roster, the new Rosa, is going to be an extremely powerful new hero. Her mana stacking talent took an archetype that already existed in the game and just took it to the max. If you've never played a mana stacker before, the build just at the end game becomes practically unkillable. And I believe that we're going to be seeing that again this league, with just Roses being these unkillable monsters. Now, I don't have a build to showcase for Rosa 2 for obvious reasons. She's not in the game yet. But what I can do is showcase to you a setup that people are doing on Rosa 1 this league as a mana stacker. And hopefully that should give you a just a good base to start off with when trying to figure out how to build your Rosa. So this is from Uber Elite, a friend of mine. This is a mana stacking setup. Now, some of the things in the setup did get nerfed, and you will not be doing it in the next league, such as the nerfs to Phantom. Sorry, just the nerfs to like plus skill levels in general would make Phantom a lot less attractive to use. But playing this setup last league, you were able to get 100% of your damage converted into taking mana damage instead. And you would scale your mana up to have, let's see, to have over 30,000 mana. It was actually a bit more than that in game. And you would then inflict dots on yourself, which I don't know how to say that other than the build became so tanky in endgame that you literally were able to go into deep space maps without any immunities and just face tank the immunities and just not die. And you would literally see dot ticks for like 200k damage and just be fine and live through them. I'm not the biggest expert on this. A big problem with this setup is that Haunting Abomination did get nerfed. So when you're building your Rosa 2 next league, you're probably not going to be able to, like, you know, you're probably just going to be able to fucking yell at it. Mana Stack is going to be expensive? Mana Stack is going to be very expensive next league. It's going to be very, very strong, though. And then the next one that I can actually talk a bit better and a bit more about, because I know the build a lot better, is going to be Gemma, Frostbitten Heart. Gemma 2. Gemma 2 next season is going to be very, very, very powerful. It was already a top performing build in this season, I feel like. And the patch notes have only given her buffs with very, very minor nerfs, such as the Avalanche nerf. And if you decide to play Gemma, the biggest boon that she has is that her whole kit is designed around freezing the whole screen and then doing a lot of bonus damage to frozen enemies. That is a very, very powerful defensive layer to have in a character, because when the enemies are frozen, they just cannot do damage to you. That's such a powerful and underrated mechanic in games sometimes. And I actually went ahead and got 3 Gemma builds together to just showcase this. So the first build here is going to be a Frostbite build. I'm just going to go through so you can see the skills that they used, the links that they used, in case anybody just wants to try and copy this or use this for their own inspiration. But this build is most likely going to be a very, very high-end performing build in the next season. So this person was running a Cuteness Imbue. They were running a Star Toss setup with times 10 aura effect. You could also run Sealed Mana Compensation if you have the Corrode on a Lone Walker. They were running Shadow Tracking Area, Precise Cuteness Imbue. And that's about it. And then the setup was using obviously a Lone Walker. They don't have the bottom Corrode. You could obviously have the bottom Corrode for way more aura effect. They're using Ice Drinker's Cage with a double corrupt on it. And then these are just the rares that you're using in the build. They do go for max rares. And one thing that you will not have in the next season anymore is this Blooming Frost Flower. You will not be able to put on your traits anymore. However, there are other powerful options that you can use instead. And this does not break the build if you don't have that option anymore. So I think this is definitely, like, I think Gemma 2 in general is just a build to have on your radar. It's going to be very, very strong. It's also one of the few builds that last season didn't do a mega stacking, and it was actually doing aura stacking, which should definitely like carry on well with the new nerfs to mega stacking. So this is the Frostbite setup. Now for the Icy Blade setup. This dude was playing with a Sun Ring and Death's Touch and a two-handed axe. These are the otherwise the rares. You can just pause on them as needed. Again, your trait not necessary, but nice to have. But we are losing that. Full left side, here's the hero memories. Oh, I forgot to show the tree on the previous one. I'll go back and show that. Leap attack, Ice Bond, double Icy Blade, Biting Cold, Frigid Domain, Precise Steadfast, Weapon Amp, Fearless, the good stuff. And just to double check, this is most likely going to have the same setup in the pack spread branch. They do not actually. They have some sealed mana compensation, some strength, a precise acuteness imbue, which next season this is going to be a focus. I do think the new Frost focus is going to be very powerful on Gemma. Blazing Slash for Sleep Strike. And Guillotine for more Sleep Strike. So Sun Slash and Guillotine, as well as in Shidna. And this is the tree that they went. Let me just go back and show you the Frostbite tree as well, because we forgot about that, unfortunately. There's a Corrosive Knowledge. I do think Frostbite is going to be one of the better options, but I'll be honest, any of them are going to be working just fine. And then lastly, the Lightning Storm setup. This is the build that actually killed SS21 first on Gemma 2 last season. This one does not have a Lone Walkers in it. The only unique it has is Sage's Insight. So here's the uniques and how they're crafted. They are using Beacon, and they are using, just a spell burst setup. With burst activation medium, this is unfortunately nerfed, but it's not a massive nerf. And you do Lightning Cold to convert the Lightning Storm into cold damage. Blizzard, Ice Bond, Frigid Transmission for mobility, Delayed Pain, Precise Spell Amp, Energy Fortress, Frigid Domain, Electric Conversion. Most of these talents that you use on Gemma, like this additional damage against frozen enemies, that's still going to be very strong next season. Because plus levels did get nerfed, but the additional damage to frozen enemies, those types of interactions was mostly buffed in the new season. So that's pretty nice as a Gemma 2 player. I think she's going to be a very, very powerful starter that you're going to be able to make work. So those are my two Esther stars. I think the new hero is obviously going to be very powerful. And I think Gemma is going to be very powerful. And you have so many options for what you want to play on her. If you want to be melee, if you want to be ranged, you can literally just look up videos of people playing the builds and just see which one looks the most fun. So then for the A tier, this is going to be builds that are honestly the same level of S tier. There's no real difference between them. The only reason I made a distinction between these is just because I think the builds in the S tier are just going to be slightly tankier. In this game, tankiness I feel like is the most important stat. As long as your build can scale damage very easily, as long as you're very, very tanky, that you want to feel good and tanky. Okay, so in A tier, we have Erika Windstalker with Strength and Tenacity stacking. You can use multiple skills on her. I put in Berserking Blade, but any Steep skill, for example, would work. And unfortunately, I don't have a very good showcase for you. The only thing I can do is showcase Top of 4 Egg, who was playing this build this season, with the Dragon Puss. So this is Magnus Jealousy. This would be the Magnus Gloves and the Magnus Helm. So you do use triple unique here. And then this is how you would craft your gear. Again, you lose the trade next season. It's not the end of the world. Also, this Erosion Aversion is nerfed. You do need to get this from an extra source somewhere in the build. other than that, I think everything should just be fine. This was a Magus. This does have Magus effect on it. You don't need to do a Magus stacking setup for this build. I believe this was Rock Magus, Thunder Magus, Frost Magus, and then Cruelty. The Magus setup is nerfed. You can still play Maguses in this game. It's not the end of the world. You just don't prioritize Magus effect as much. And I think Maguses, they are nerfed. I don't think the nerfs on them are actually that bad. I'll be honest with you. Like, it kills Magus, like pure Magus stacking, but bolts that just popped in Maguses as like a defensive tool, or even as an offensive tool, they should mostly still be fine. It's only gonna be slightly weaker, and it was a deserved nerf, I feel like. This is one of his candles. The other candle, I believe, had Sleep Strike on it as well as Attack Focus. But I'm not 100% sure. Fisherman, Echidna. Three-Eyed Cat. Sun Slash. Fire Plume. Wraith. That should be all of them. As well as just Strength on the minors, which makes sense. On the mediums, on the micros, I mean. Okay. So that's gonna be your Erika version. Then another build, which is very powerful, is gonna be Gemma, Flame of Pressure, Flame Core. Flame Core is a sentry skill. Last season, this was one of the most effective builds in the game for just like getting a super cheap SS21. Sentry builds in general last season were very, very powerful options for getting cheap SS21s. But this is one that like I was recommended by other people as well. And the thing is, you can not only can you kill SS21 with this, but you can get very, very, very tanky with it. And that's something I like in builds. I want my builds to get tanky. So the uniques we use here is Evil Heart, Martyr, and Valyr's Nightstraw. And then this is how the person crafted the gear. And they are using the Abyssal King's Soul. This is a dot build, because the way you scale this build is through trauma reaps. So you want to get like reap on the build, and you want to reap your traumas. We're using a Flame Core, Path of Flames, Blink, Shackles of Malice, Frost Shield, then Energy Fortress, Deep Pain, Acuteness Imbue, and Weapon Amp. I mean, instead of Acuteness Imbue, you're just gonna have like the Focus next season, which is also really good. These are the candles the person uses. This build will also be able to utilize the new Sentry talent point, which seems to be very powerful. This is definitely something to have on your radar. I don't think a lot of people are going to be playing G3, like Gemma 3 Flame Core. So this is definitely something you can consider if you want to like try something a bit unorthodox, so that it'll be cheaper to play. Then next up, Gemma Ice Fire Fusion. Gemma Ice Fire Fusion is just the most, it's probably just the strongest aura stacker in this game. I was looking at aura stacking, and I think next season, aura stacking is going to be very, very, very promising with the changes that they made to armor effectiveness rating, where you can get 80% damage reduction on both physical and elemental damage through armor, and you can get 100% erosion converted to elemental, which before was very difficult to do because we use lone walkers, but because you can get it now on shield and I think on chest, I feel like aura stacking is actually going to be in a very, very strong state this season. And what I would change about this setup in specific is I would definitely go for like, I would definitely go for 80% of like 100% armor effectiveness. So you have 80% DR against both fizz and elemental damage, and I would get 100% of erosion damage converted. But that being said, this is the setup that victimized then. Moonstrike, Sprout Strike, Bull's Rage, Whirlwind, Ice Bond, Charge Flame, Swell Amp, Electric Conversion, Fearless. This is a burst activation setup. The burst activation is, to be honest, a bit expensive and not good at all. I think there are way better setups you can do as an ore stacker on G1. This is just what this person happens to do. And this is how they crafted the gear. I do have a setup that I've been working on and like a spreadsheet, looking over like an aura stacker setup for G1, because I think it's going to be a very, very powerful option. And it quite excites me because I think it's going to be one of those builds that become like unkillably tanky. Okay, but here is the soul candles. Let me look at the pack spreads. We're probably going to see another star trial. Oh, we don't see a star trial. That's surprising. So we have Fish in a Cage for element immunity, aura effect, aura effect, aura effect. Bird in a Pond for crowd control immunity. And Sunslash, because we need to get Sleep Strikes, as well as Guillotine for Sleep Strike chance. And then lastly, here is the pedigrees and the slate setup. And here's the talent tree. Dum, 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 dum. Okay. Okay. And then the next setup is gonna be Rosa High Court Chariot, so that's Rosa 1, Ground Shaker. So Rosa Ground Shaker was a very, very solid league starter this season, and she's mostly untouched. I think she's gonna be a
SNK_Seth just meowed.
I think she's gonna be a very solid just a very solid build going into the next season as well. It's a very solid starter. I think it's much of the prime Seth. And this is what people are playing on it. Now, you might be noticing something. A lot of strength stackers, right? Strength stacking is just...
Mistrust just meowed.
You think of the prime? Strength stacking this season, think of the prime Mr. Us, is just such a very strong and powerful, like, archetype at the moment. Because it makes scaling defense and damage just very, very easy. That I do think that a lot of options related around strength stacking is going to be very powerful next season. But yeah, this is how people were playing Ground Shaker last season. Generally, you start with a 200 weapon for Ground Shaker, and then you transition into a 100 plus shield in the late game. You can also stay with a 200 if you want to, but the setup I'm showing is like a 100 plus shield setup. Meow, meow, meow. And again, you just have strength on your notes. You're running Spurred Orb. That's a new one for me. Spurred Orb. Hatch Out. Which, unfortunately, Hatch Out did get nerfed. Warhammer for Demonology Charge Speed. And Shackles. And these are the setup we're running. Our Legend Divinity Slates. Holiness actually received a buff in the next match, which is quite nice, since this build does use Holiness. And yeah. I think that's going to be the end for the A tier. So all of these A tier builds, I feel is very, very good, because not only do they get a lot of, damage scaling through like aura stacking or through strength stacking, but while doing that stacking, they also gain an immense amount of defenses and become very tanky. I also have a few builds I think are going to be very, very strong, but there's just some minor issues that I have in it. So the first one's going to be Erika 1 Corrosive Throw. Erika 1 Corrosive Throw is a very cost-effective, high-damage build to do in the game. The only problem that I really have with it is it's very difficult to become the super tank when you do this build. The build is nerfed in the new season, but also I don't know if you do this setup, how do you become tanky enough to do all content of the game very comfortably? But we're using a Blind Vision. Blind Vision unfortunately got nerfed. We're using Blight, Stray Burst Return, Heart of Storm. And then these are uniques. It's a fucking priceless uniques. With our Corrosive Throw setup, Spiral Strike, Aim, Shadow Shot, Archery Bond, Precise Cruelty, Precise Projectiles, and then these would have been two Magi, this would have been a Rosa Magus, and I can only assume this would be a Rock Magus. Let's look at the pack spread. Multi-strike. Multi-strike. Hunter, projectile distance, and then multi-strike again. As well as just multi-strike damage on every single small passive. This is the soul cannons we're running. We're just adding first damage to our weapon and critical strike damage increase. With these hero memories. And here is our talent setup. Unfortunately, this build wasn't pushed to the very, very end game. It does say 12 trillion. It's not actually 12 trillion, but yeah. It definitely shows the potential that this build has. It would have been nice if I had a better build to showcase for Corrosive Throw. I do think this skill looks very cool though, and it may be something I'll try to make it play in the future. Okay, and then next up, Rehan Anger. So, Rehan, this build, has a build this season that can literally just walk into SS20, walk into SS21, stand AFK, and kill the boss. And that's this build. This build was slightly, like, there was some nerfs and stuff to it in the patch notes. The person who made this build did say that those nerfs don't matter, it's still going to be very strong. I'm unsure how good this is as a starter though, how it's going to feel like day 1, day 2, for example. But late game, I'm very confident this build's going to feel like a monster and it's going to be very strong. But again, it's just that thing of like, this is a League Store tier list, not an endgame build tier list. So it is very important to me how the builds perform on League Start in particular. Precise Cruelty, Magus, the classic. Fortunately, this did get nerfed, but you can now get armor effectiveness in other places on the gear. Oh, Rift Slate. I hope Rift Slate is cheaper next league. I think Rift Slates are very, very cool. When they're not super expensive, because they're actually very strong and worth putting your build around. That being said though, I do think Pedigree of the Gods did gain some power going to the next season. Thanks to the fact that you only get 5 talents now instead of 6. So getting 2 talents from Pedigree of the Gods is now a bit higher value than before. So we have strength. We have a Star Trail set up with just a bunch of strength everywhere. And then we have our Fire Plume for another Mega, so with a bunch of strength. Okay, this build looks very nice. Then the next up, Rehan Seething. Rehan Seething is a life stacking setup. Life stacking also got nerfed, but it was beyond powerful last link. And while again, I don't really know how good of a starter Seething Silhouette would be, it is going to be a very powerful build going into the late game. And as you can see, this build uses a lot of uniques. For the amount of performance you receive out of this build, it was absolutely absurd to have this many uniques in it. But I still think this build is going to be fine and strong next league. Very bad memories. These are some of the worst memories I've ever seen, oh my word. This is like killed SS20 by the way, or SS21. And then lastly, let's just finish this off with our Fallen Star, with our Legendary Saints. So yeah, this should definitely be a strong build. You can like maybe try out later in the league. I just don't know how good it's gonna be as a starter. Then the next build is probably going to be the strongest build of the league. In terms of the strongest starter of the league. Day 1, day 2, day 3, I think this build is gonna just completely dominate China. It's just generally in the Chinese players, like after those first few days, they'll then swap off to like their endgame build. And I don't think she's that strong in the endgame, and it's gonna be Selena Howling Gale. Last season, Selena Howling Gale was the fastest like build in the game to clear Traveler 7, and it did like in 3 hours, which is just absolutely absurd. And this person did reach 4k with Selena, which 4k is very respectable and very, very strong. That is way more damage than you'll ever need in this game. So we're using Ezreal setup. Focus basing stacking has actually been buffed in the new season, which is quite nice. And we're doing aura stacking. So there's, I mean, all these focus bastings, like, it's just gonna be better next league, which is quite nice. And I think this is a very fun skill to play as well. When it comes to like recommending builds to new players and stuff, I think Selena just has like that really good new player feel of like automation and just like things dying and just feeling really nice and good. Oops. Very, very good gear though on this person. Extremely, extremely good gear. But yeah, if you're not sure about what to play and you're like brand new to the game, just definitely check out videos of Selena and see if she would be more like up your alley. Because I think she's quite a fun hero to play. She's fun to the point where I'm considering playing her. So we have here a Star Trail setup with just a bunch of aura effect on them. With some block ratio, block ratio, block ratio. And then 3-eyed cat. As well as the Thunder Megas. Nice. Honestly, looking at this, like, this isn't even that expensive to do. Yeah, it doesn't even have a mere weapon. Like, this is definitely, like, an achievable build. And this reached 4k on Dragon. So it's actually, I think it's quite strong. I think she has a lot of potential. Okay, and then we do have some cheese builds. The cheese builds in this case are builds that aren't necessarily cheese, but one that I mentioned is Carino's Lethal Flash. Carino Lethal Flash has historically been known as like the cheap 20 boss killer. You know, you wrote this build, it's very cheap, you kill the last boss, it's super clunky to play, it doesn't feel nice to play, but, you know, it gets the job done. And the way you play this is by going Icelands. You just go Evil Heart Armor, Chaos Abyss, Very Night Stroll. You craft yourself some cheap-ass gear. Like, look, these aren't even T0 mods and stuff. Because the build just doesn't need T0 mods, it's just that good. You slap on Abyssal King and you're done. This is the Iceland setup we have. Blink, which is how we do our damage. Black Hole, Delayed Pain, Thunder Spike. Precise Projectiles, Precise Energy Fortress, Deep Pain, Erosion Onslaught. Next season, you can most likely use Thunder Focus instead of Thunder Spike to get 10 num stacks, which is an option you can consider. I am a big hater of Carino 2, but I cannot deny its effectiveness and power when it comes to getting the job done and getting you that SS20 clear. Because it is a very, very powerful build that has just managed to avoid nerfs because I think nobody in China wants to play it. And China always finds like other cheap builds instead to do. And then the second cheese build is going to be Youga, Space Time Lapse, Mind Control. The reason why I put this as a cheese build is it's very similar to Selena and the fact that it's like a strong starter. But where Selena like falls off a bit and it gets a bit hard to scale to 21, Mind Control just jumps off a cliff. This build is literally something that you play as a starter and you don't go beyond that. it is such a painful skill to try and min-max all the way to like SS21 and killing bosses and stuff that I just would never ever recommend that to anyone. But let me find the mind control player. You know, like, look at this, like 3.5k, 3.5k, like people just don't push the skill that high, unfortunately. But this is the setup we're doing. I'm just gonna speedrun this. I don't think you should push this build to endgame. If you leak sort this, just like swap to a real build and save yourself the pain. Like a few days into the league. Some people do love this though. If you love this playstyle, that's fine. Like you can make it work. It did get nerfed though. It's gonna be a rough mind control league for late game. But it's still gonna be good early game. This will be interesting with the new talent changes. You're gonna have to do some thinking when trying to incorporate these old builds into like the new system. But I think it's gonna be a pretty fun problem to solve for a lot of people. Twin Cities. Does that get nerfed slightly, unfortunately? Mirror Cracks. And Tiger Roar. Wait, where's his other medium? Wait, he uses a big 7% aura effect. Okay. Oh. Yeah, whatever. And then we have some honorable mentions. So my first, these are honorable mentions that I don't actually have a build for, unfortunately. Rosa High Court Chariot, Shadow Swamp. This is a build that a friend of mine, Void, actually made this season. It's a pretty rough early game, but it has very good scaling and can reach very high damage for quite cheap. I don't have a build set up to show you, but maybe that's something you consider trying out and messing around with and trying to figure out. Rosa on Side Blade, Energy Shield stacking. So a setup that existed in this current league already is you could literally do Energy Shield stacking on builds using Cicada Shell and stuff to reach like 90,000, 100,000 Energy Shield. I think that is still going to be a very viable option in the new season. And it might be doable on Rosa, especially with Cicada Shell, which like makes it that your elemental damage is all equal, which means you can proc a Euro trait from all three, like, you can very easily proc a Euro trait, which gives like Scorch, Numb, and Frostbite. But if not, you can just go Wraithing Seething Silhouette. This is like the build that people normally do ES stacking on. Just like the life stacking setup, it's very powerful, it's gonna destroy. And then just some special notes I'm gonna go over. I mentioned this earlier in the video. I think strength stacking is like a very, very strong and easy to do archetype at the moment. I think ore stacking is also gonna be absolutely strong. I think strength plus tenacity stacking is gonna be very strong. And I do think sentry builds are actually going to be very, very powerful in the new league. Sentry builds were already very strong. I just don't know that much about sentry builds, but you know, the new shared fate talent looks very nice for sentry builds. It replaces your automation, sentry automation, places them for you, and it also gives you 25% additional damage, which is quite nice. And I mean, even in this season, like, they were just a very, very high performer. A lot of, like, the cheap Chinese builds, like Clear SS21 on a very low budget, were sentry builds. And then, unfortunately, I don't know anything about minions. I can't give any recommendations towards minions. That being said, though, I do have a friend that is an IS-2 main. And that friend said that basically IS-2's early game got just gutted. It's going to feel very bad in early game with the nerf to Prayer, because Prayer not only heals synthetic troops, instead of reeling like your Mega and stuff. That being said though, IS-2 will still be a very strong late game build. Okay, YouTube. You might have noticed that there's one character that I didn't mention in this video. Erika too. Erika, Lightning Shadow. So I'm not too happy with the current state of deck stacking in this game. I think the Megas nerfs and the deck stacking nerfs do hit Erika quite hard. I think it's just very difficult in Erika right now to make your build reach damage cap and be tanky. it kind of feels like you need to choose one or the other. It's very difficult to get both currently on Erika. Every setup that we had to like achieve that last season just got nerfed. Any sort of build that I did on Erika last season, I did like 5 different setups. Just every single one of them got nerfed. I don't think Erika 2 is a strong link starter. I just, objectively speaking, I think her early game is very weak. I think her late game is going to be fine, like always. Because with enough money, you can make anything work. But with all of that being said, I am currently doing a lot of cooking. And I will be bringing out a video about this cooking very soon. Meow, meow, meow. The most interesting build is an ore stacking build. I made this build for G1 because I do think this is going to be better on G1. I do think you have some options for using this on Erika 2, as well as just looking at some other options that we've done on Erika before. I do think we're probably still going to do Mega Stacking on Erika. I think that Mega Stacking just fits in too well for Kit, and deck stacking like really hampers you with like other options, like going for max res and first convert and things. But please stay tuned. I love Erika 2. I don't think you should league start Erika 2. Take this from the Erika Queen, the Catgirl Queen. Don't league start her. But if you like pain, like me, I will be making an Erika 2 league starter yet again, and I will be league starting her. I already have a build planned for. I have a few builds planned for. I think this is gonna be another one of those leagues where I do like 5 different builds in Erika because there's just so many like setups that look exciting and fun to play for me. And I kind of want an excuse to need to pull for like the new Azure Gunner pet because she looks really hot. And the build that I'm thinking of like going to clear SS20 with, unfortunately will not be able to use her because it's a spell build. That being said, stay tuned. And I hope you guys enjoy. I will be coming up with daily build updates once the league start comes out. And I'm going to try and be better with the content so you people can see my gear progression from like day 1 into week 1. Instead of PoE where it's like, yo, this is my 10 div build. Yo, this is my 50 mirror build. Because I do agree that was a bit scuffed because I just didn't think about doing content every day. Anyway, YouTube, thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and bye-bye. Bye, YouTube. Bye. Love you, YouTube.